Now I know you guys probably saw the title of this video and thought, what are they talking about? Why would former President Donald Trump become president again in 2 days, March 4th, 2021. We're past this. The inauguration came and went, Biden won, and we've all moved on. Or so we thought. Although the majority of people, which includes Americans and citizens all over the world who watched this year's election so closely, have come to terms with the results, it seems a small group of extremists haven't. More specifically, the far-right group known as QAnon, who aside from showing up in strong numbers at the Capitol Riots, also feel the government as a whole is illegitimate, and former President Trump was the only politician ready to expose the country and government altogether. And following the inauguration, theory started to swirl that March 4th was going to be the day Donald Trump once again becomes President Trump. So naturally, today on Life's Biggest Questions, we're asking, what if Donald Trump is president again in 2 days? Smash that like button and let's go. Now, there's much more to this theory than people just thinking he's going to walk back into office. And let me tell you guys, these beliefs are absolutely wild. It appears to have all started on a Telegram group, or so sources say, in which one user wrote, I quote, "Can't wait for your return, President Trump. Hold the line. March 4th can't come soon enough." What are we talking about right now, guys? GameStop or Trump? I don't understand. Hold the line is a GameStop term. It's not a Trump term. Now, of all days, March 4th seems to be incredibly random. Why 4 days into the third month of the year? And about 5 or 6 weeks after the inauguration? Well, there's actually a good reason. March 4th was the official inauguration day for presidents until 1933. So naturally, believers of this theory think that the real inauguration is going to occur on March 4th, and to no surprise, they're still under the belief that former President Donald Trump won. However, there's obviously much more to it than just that. Aside from this old inauguration day, there's also the District of Columbia Organic Act of 1871, which, when misread by some QAnon members, leads them to believe that the United States was officially turned into a corporation from that point on. And under that false belief, to no surprise, those same people are also under the impression that any laws passed or presidents elected after 1871 were illegitimate, which technically would mean that, according to those same people, Trump was never president, but they're not really speaking on that. Now, with all that being said, of course, there has been a heightened sense of security and awareness around the White House, as well as the majority of Washington, D.C., with fears that a similar protest or riot like the one that happened on January 6th may happen again. Seems like it's heading for a monthly occurrence minus February. However, a handful of prominent QAnon leaders, if that's what you'd call them, have denied that anything is happening on March 4th and have gone as far as saying that the mainstream media is trying to, I quote, "make the whole movement look dumb." Still, there's enough concern that security around government buildings in Washington have upped, and some have gone as far as saying if Trump isn't elected on March 4th, they'll take matters into their own hands. The Trump Hotel in Washington also randomly raised their suite prices from about $500 a night to more than $1,300 a night on March 3rd and 4th, which oddly enough is in the middle of the week. So why would they jack up prices? No one really knows. And when asked, the reservation team explained, I quote, "It's not unheard of. It's probably because they're just busy and many people want the same rooms." Some sources think Trump and his affiliates are simply trying to take advantage of those willing to support him, as other luxurious hotels in the area haven't raised their prices at all. So now that we know where this whole March 4th idea comes from, what would happen if somehow, some way, Donald Trump actually became president again on March 4th? I'll be honest, guys, I really don't know. I think all hell would break loose in the country, that's for sure. Nothing like this has ever happened before in the history of the United States. And so with that in mind, I think given the unprecedented situation, it's safe to say a lot of unprecedented things would happen. I think a lot of those who thought this was going to happen would take to the streets to rejoice and potentially rub it in everyone's face. I also think a lot of people would take to the streets to protest what just happened. They voted in someone else only for that person, in this case Joe Biden, to take over for 6 weeks only to go back to the other person who was just voted out. The American people would not be happy at all, and to no surprise, I'm sure other countries would get involved too. Not to say that they would attack or go to war with the US, but I think they'd have a few things to say as the whole world would be in disbelief. I doubt Donald Trump would do much to cool the heads of those who would take to the streets in anger, and I honestly think the majority of the country would turn into a war zone, with the QAnon clashing with Trump supporters clashing with Biden supporters, and then angry Americans just clashing with everyone. All in all, even with the National Guard deployed, I think the American people would take to the streets armed in large numbers, and we'd see something the world has never seen before. It wouldn't even be a civil war as much as it would be everyday Americans taking to the streets armed and ready to defend themselves, as if we're now living in an everyone for themselves type country, literally. I think all governments would go out the window, as the majority of the American population and potentially the world would lose faith in the country's political system. More so, I guess, than they already have. What happens next? Who knows, but I don't think it'd be very good. Now, as always, guys, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this one down below. Maybe another country attacks, maybe someone becomes the leader. Who knows, really? What do you guys think would happen if Trump actually became president on March 4th? And what do you guys think about this whole theory in general? For now, let's reply to some comments from the video. What if Lovecraftian creatures were real? Part 2 marathon. James 003 said, "Don't worry, folks. SCP Foundation will take care of them." Right? I don't know. What do you think, James? 003? Agent 003? What do you think, buddy? Isaac Perry said, don't search up H.P. Lovecraft's cat's name. I was actually going to do that when I read the comment, and then I didn't. So now I'm standing here looking like an idiot. I feel like it's something bad, though. Pathologic said, what do you mean if they are real? No one's told. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. That was our mistake. Not if they are real. Sorry. All right, guys. That's all for this one. I've been your host, Jared Bronson. We'll see you guys soon.